Thanks, Joyce.
Ray, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to start.
Okay.
I hereby reconvene the open session board meeting.
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the July 17th, 2019 board meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Kevin, will you please present the President and CEO's monthly report?
Yes, I will.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Good morning. A good turnout today. Good morning, Chair and members of the board, and to the public as well. I would say that for the September board meeting, we have a lot to report. So I'll start off certainly with some update on our statistics. I know there's been a lot of focus. Certainly, we had a press event with the governor about reporting our data, and like to focus on some of the turnaround statistics that we're seeing for some encouraging news. If you look at the year as a whole, our data indicates on our service has become much more reliable than in 2018. The first 8 months this year versus last year, our train cancellations are down 34%. In this August versus last August, for those who remember how painful last summer was, our train cancellations are down 60%, and our on-time performance is up from 89.9% to 92%. We achieved all this despite ongoing locomotive engineer staffing challenges that we'll talk more about later. And I think this really does speak to basically the same number of engineers that we had last year. It speaks to the leadership team, the new leadership team we have in place, and how they're managing our resources. At the same time, we have been, as we've often discussed, training more engineers than ever before. Currently, we have 7 concurrent locomotive engineering classes underway, the most in our history. 3 classes graduate over the next 4 months, in October, November, and January. We certainly are not spiking the football. I'm not a believer in spiking the football. You're only as good as your last at bat. But we fully expect, while we realize there's a lot more to be done, the data is encouraging, and we fully expect the numbers to fluctuate over any given period. A bit like the stock market. If you see the chart, as long as it's trending in the right direction, that's the important thing. And while we'll have those fluctuations, as we did say this past Sunday and Monday, those will occur, but we expect them to significantly reduce and diminish over time as the engineers come on board. What I could also highlight in the good news category, 3 days ago with the Penn Station, New York Amtrak repair work concluded, we restored service out of New York on weekday peak period on the Montclair-Bouton line, or MOBO, for trains and select reverse peak M&E trains. And that certainly helps wrap up a successful completion of Amtrak's work at Penn Station, New York. We also increased service to Hoboken and our Avenel station on the coastline in response to customer requests and ridership analysis. On Monday, our customer advocates Stu Mader rode the MOBO line trains, and we had ambassadors at stations along the line this morning to thank customers for their patience over this past summer. Later this evening, myself, Anthony, and a few others will also be out on the line to thank customers personally. I mentioned Avenel. I should a little more details about that. The Avenel station in Woodbridge Township, we've increased weekday service by more than 40%, and we are running a full schedule of weekend service for the first time in 34 years. The expansion will spur economic growth and improve the quality of life for hundreds of customers who use that station every day. We have added this service in response to community requests and ridership growth. I think it's a great example of our new strategy to engage, inform, and improve, with the emphasis on improve, which puts the customers at the center of everything we do. I would also mention additional service increases. We talk about rail, cannot neglect bus. In South Jersey, our bus service, put additional resources that we've acquired with buses and drivers, enabled us to add bus service in South Jersey as well. To meet this demand, we've adjusted bus service to add travel options to the Florence Florence River Line Light Rail Station, and a new hospital opening in Molika Hill. We extended service on the 409 and 413 to include stops at the Florence River Line Station. We've added trips between Philadelphia and Trenton on the 409, and we extended the 413 bus from downtown Burlington City to the Florence Line River Station, providing trip to the Haynes Center. And we've adjusted the 412 bus to provide service to the new Inspira Hospital on Route 322 in Molika Hill, scheduled to open later this year. Talking about preparing and gearing to things that'll be opening, next time I'd like to touch on is American Dream. Certainly has gotten publicity with their opening scheduled kickoff later next month. We're busy preparing behind the scenes for the opening of the mall and entertainment complex on October 25th. We've created 2 new express bus routes running daily express service every 30 minutes from Manhattan's Port Authority Bus Terminal and Secaucus Junction. These express routes will begin operating on a pilot basis when American Dream opens on October 25th. We've also extended 3 local bus routes to serve American Dream on a pilot basis, the 85, the 703, and the 772 bus routes. The local bus schedule went into effect on August 31st, and buses will terminate at the Meadowlands Racetrack until the October 25th opening. Public hearings on American Dream bus service will be held October 3rd in Jersey City and October 7th in Hackensack. Please visit our website, njtransit.com, for more details on the public hearings. We'll continue to closely monitor customer demand to ensure that the transit service to and from American Dream remains commensurate with demand. On a different note, I would like to take a moment to recognize and commemorate yesterday's 18th anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 attack on the World Trade Center. Yesterday morning, I had the privilege of attending a ceremony in Patterson as a guest of Mayor Sega. I also attended a service held by the Port Authority in New York at St. Peter's Church, along with Chief Trusillo. As many of you know, New Jersey Transit facilities and employees played a critical role in that evacuation effort that day as people from Manhattan sought refuge at our Hoboken terminal. New Jersey Transit Police worked around the clock on 12-hour shifts for 7 days. Hundreds of New Jersey Transit employees across the system stepped up to assist in any way they could. I could not be more proud to lead and represent this agency, which did so much to help our customers and the region on that tragic day. While the memories certain memories may fade, it is certainly a day that no one should forget. And our thoughts and prayers certainly are with those families who lost loved ones on that day. But I would say both the chief and I noticed, as well as others who were at these ceremonies, that it's good to see a lot of young people there, so that the next generation, they're now people are born who are now 18 who were not weren't alive then. So it is really it was inspirational to see the next generation coming along and honoring the day. Now turning to a more fun part of the job, I'd like to take a moment to recognize 3 extraordinary public servants. One is our own Jeff Bernstein, Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Controller. Jeff, will you stand for a moment? You're standing, all right, there you go, Jeff. I often get compliments from vendors and other people, financial on the financial side of our house, how much has been cleaned up in the last year. What a tremendous change people are noticing on our financial controls. It's not something that's very sexy, but it is extremely important for a business like ours, this size. And though Bill Vaquera, who is our CFO, new CFO, may take a lot of the credit, we know, Jeff, that you actually do the work. And I guess we're not the only ones who know that, though. Jeff was recently named to the prestigious Top 40 Under 40 list by Mass Transit Magazine. And I do think it's a reflection on the quality and caliber of leadership we've brought on board New Jersey Transit in the last 18 months. And so, Jeff, on behalf of all of us, congratulations and keep up the good work. Next, I'd like to recognize another NJ Transit employee, Jackie Galdieri. Jackie, you want to come up? We have a proclamation. I'll read that for the Stephen. Whereas on June 15th, we got that. Okay. Sorry. Make it a little better. Oh, there we go. whereas on June 15th, 2019, TVM terminal agent Jackie Galdieri displayed great character in going above and beyond the call of duty, and whereas while working at the Princeton Junction ticket office, Ms. Galdieri was alerted by a customer that there was an individual sitting at the very end of the westbound platform with their feet dangling from the edge. And whereas Ms. Galdieri went outside to assess the situation and observed the individual sitting on the edge of the platform, and whereas Ms. Galdieri proceeded to talk to the individual and explain it a severe safety hazard to sit on the edge of the platform, and whereas she noticed the individual was in distress, but she was able to assist the person to stand and walk with the person on the platform, and whereas all of a sudden the individual jumped onto the tracks, and Ms. Galdieri immediately called 911 while another commuter jumped on the track to help the individual back onto the platform. And whereas Ms. Galdieri and the commuter waited and comforted the individual until the EMS arrived on the scene, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors, President and CEO, and the employees of New Jersey Transit express deep appreciation to Jackie Galdieri for her quick thinking and perceptive actions. Jackie. Oh, sorry, you got board members in there too. Oops. Sorry, we'll have to shop you in, Photoshop you in.
That's okay. It's all good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Joyce, we have one more. Another great public servant and a good friend to transit, as many of you seen regularly over countless board meetings, is Suzanne Mack. Suzanne, do you want to come up and join us? We originally planned to honor Suzanne with this expression at the in July, coinciding with our 40th anniversary, but I know you were overseas, out of the country, so we'd have to do that today. So we'll bring it out front. I'll read it just like we did with Jackie. Oh, sorry. Yeah, well, hopefully you have a lot more years to keep doing it. I'll read the formal part of the proclamation. But I think anybody who's been involved in transit in New Jersey has known Suzanne for many years. Whereas a noted transportation advocate, Suzanne Mack championed transportation services since the beginning of New Jersey Transit in 1979. And whereas Ms. Mack is a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners and a New Jersey professional planner with more than 40 years of planning experience in the private and public sector. And whereas Ms. Mack attained the status of Fellow in the Institute of Transportation Engineers and is one of only a few planners in New Jersey to attain that advanced certification as a certified transportation planner and an affordable housing professional. And whereas Ms. Mack served as an original member of the North Jersey Transportation Advisory Committee and then has served as chair of the committee since 1989 and continues as chair of the renamed North Jersey Passenger Advisory Committee. And whereas Ms. Mack provided crucial support for the construction of the $2 billion, 21-mile Hudson-Bergen Light Rail Transit System as director of the Hudson Transportation Management Association, an association she formed when she was Hudson County's coordinator for the project, which has catalyzed development in Hudson County. And whereas Ms. Mack has remained a passionate supporter of the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail line since operations began on its first segment in April 2000, and she continues to be a passionate supporter of this line today. And whereas Ms. Mack is always a powerful and influential voice for transportation while attending New Jersey Transit board meetings and community meetings, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors, the President, CEO, and the employees of New Jersey Transit extend grateful appreciation to Suzanne Mack's many years of dedicated service to New Jersey Transit and for her contribution of 40 years of service to the people of New Jersey. Suzanne?
And I know Joyce also received an honor. Did she come too? She was here. I couldn't make it in July.
I think for anybody who knows Suzanne, you talk about advocacy, and Suzanne, one thing about advocacy that we talk about, part of advocacy is criticizing and critiquing an organization, and we are certainly these days open to any criticism, positive or otherwise, but it's also advocacy in the role of actually advocating for transit when we're doing things right, to make sure that people in Trenton know that how critical transit is to everybody in this state, to the economy, to people's lives. And Suzanne holds our feet to the fire, but also is a real good advocate for us, for helping us get the resources we need to do the job. So Suzanne, very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Commissioner Board, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and congratulations to all those that were recognized. Are there any comments from the public, Joyce?
Yes, there are 16 speakers and an additional 7 speakers on behalf of Russell Grady. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 5 minutes. And as is our protocol, people that are speaking on the same topic, 2 speakers will have 5 minutes and all other speakers will have 2 minutes to provide comments. The first speaker is Randy Glucksman.
Good morning. Good morning and congratulations to the honorees. Again, I was hoping to get finally an opportunity to speak to the new board members, but was supposed to represent riders, but that is not to be. With all due respect to this board, I cannot accept that you truly represent the interest of our customers, the rail riders, a function I perform at the MTA. At the July meeting, I spoke to you about a lack of transparency with regard to positive train control, or PTC, and how much attention this subject receives at the MTA. Please let the public know where NJ Transit stands with its PTC installation as soon as you can. It is their tax dollars that is paying for this very important and expensive project. A very recent news report found on the MTA, on the FRA website, that you had 0 miles of track that were equipped with PTC. The clock is ticking. You have only 15 and a half months to get the job completely done, or else the agency will face the potential of massive fines. I am now speaking for all the true New Jersey rail advocates. According to your press release, and copies were distributed, dated May the 3rd, I quote, "These schedule adjustments are temporary and will be restored in early 2019. I have been asking this question at every board meeting that I have attended this year. At that time, there were 18 trains, including 2 Metro North Express trains operating on the Pascack Valley line, which serve my constituents. At the same time, the Friday-only train was dropped from the schedule, a train used by Sabbath observers who need to be home before sundown. And with the approach of autumn and its shorter daylight hours, it is more urgent that this train also be restored and not be another inconvenience as it was last year and continues to be. I never received an answer. To end on a positive note, I was pleased to learn that when the American Dream Complex opens next month, you will definitely not initially be providing rail service. Frankly, our customers have waited long enough to have all of our trains restored to the pre-June 2018 service levels, and to do otherwise, would be a great disservice to them. Thank you for the opportunity to speaking to you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Orrin Getz.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. My name is Orrin Getz, and I'm the vice chair of the Metro North Rail Commuter Council. New Jersey Transit, unfortunately, has been very opaque and not told us very much about the status of the PTC installation. It seems that many of the decisions are made during executive sessions with little information coming out afterwards. We do not have a status report about the PTC installation. Metro North and Long Island Railroad do an excellent job of reporting this information on a monthly basis, and we feel that New Jersey Transit should do likewise. We still, like Randy said, don't have any information about the restoration of the cancellation of our second Metro North Express train on the Pascack Valley line and the Friday midday getaway train. These are important services that we need, and we should have a status on it. It's long overdue. I do have to say one other thing, though. There has been a general improvement in service, and we've seen less trains canceled, and that is an improvement, and we're looking forward to better restoration of service. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Murray Bowden. Is Murray here? Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker, Steve Thorpe.
Good morning, board members, Director Gacchetti via video hookup, and everyone else, staff of New Jersey Transit. This is a rare opportunity. I have a seat on both the, I have a seat on the Lackawanna Coalition. I'm a member of the Lackawanna Coalition. Also, New Jersey ARP has authorized me to speak on this particular topic. So this is a joining of these two advocacy groups that want to speak to you about important things. The thing I want to speak about is PTC. You've heard it 3 times today already, and I'm going to hammer a little more on it. I, as a taxpayer in the state of New Jersey, would like to know how much money has been spent so far on this project. I know it's a federal mandate, and I understand that that has to be done. I wish the feds would do what the state of New Jersey did a few years ago when I worked for Union County government. They had a thing, state mandate, state pay. You make us do it, you're going to supply the money. That's only fair. There should be some redress toward the federal government to say, where can we get some of the money for this? I really believe that should be looked into. I don't know how it can be done, but it should be looked into. And everybody thinks it's humorous. I don't. I'm a taxpayer of the state of New Jersey. I would like to know how much money has been spent on this project so far, from inception to where we are now. I'd also like to know what performance metrics you have. In other words, if I asked you to build a house for me, and you were the builder or contractor, I'd want to know when the pipes are going to be done, when the electrical was going to be done, when the painting was going to be done, when the roof was going to be done. Where are the metrics for this project that's consumed at least, I'm guessing, $1 billion of taxpayer dollars? I'd like to know where it is. And it's only right that we have this information. We're entitled to it, I believe. And since this administration has taken over, and I'm not blaming particular individuals, this is not a personal attack, but since the new administration has taken over, it has become more and more opaque here. So opaque here that I feel like my cataract surgery never helped me. You know, it's really bad. It's not a laughing matter. Just at this meeting now, the last meeting back in July, you went into executive session and you asked for a certain amount of money to be expended toward PTC. We don't know what the metric behind that was, what's being done by that. I see 3 action items on today's agenda, 1909, 47, 48, and 49, that according to my math, totals up to something like $52 million. What are we getting for this? That's what I want to know. What are we getting? What's been done? Well, I'd like to know, like Metro North has rolled out. Metro North had the vendor come in and basically read the riot act to him. What have you done for us? What are you doing for us? How close are we to inception? What are we doing? That's the question I need an answer to. And I feel the citizens, taxpayers of the state of New Jersey, as well as the riders, need to know this. I also want to get in a word from my friend Mr. G, too. I think that he's been waiting a long time, too. But I don't think anything's moving anywhere anyway. So that's the end of what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sally Gellert.
Good morning. I'm Sally Gellert. I'm here representing the Lackawanna Coalition as the Communications Director. This month's schedule change was particularly disruptive. 29 trains canceled the first day. The statement by Nancy Snyder, the implementation of the rail schedule change, which took place on Sunday, had an impact on engineer availability yesterday as they picked their assignments. The current shortage of engineers compounds the situation. Blame the engineer shortage. But your organization has prepared the schedules far enough in advance to print copies for the public, so surely there was time for picks to be made and any issues resolved before the schedule was implemented. In fact, you have been able to make such transitions seamlessly in the past. As it is, we've been suffering with a schedule that has not been restored as promised. Randy mentioned the May 3rd press release that I was going to quote. so I'll continue on. Adding confusion with additional cancellations while we're still waiting for those trains to come back is extremely irritating to riders. In fact, on Monday, September 9th, the very day after Ms. Snyder's statement, on the Morris-Essex line, the 552, 618, and 630 were all canceled due to engineer non-availability. Is this any way to run a rail system? You bet it's not. I hear from my fellow riders on the Pascack Valley line in a tweet that, quote, cuts to service has not been restored and overcrowding. Single track problems. One breakdown causes a cascade of delays for the rest of the day, unquote. We believe that it's time to revisit the Gulf and Vale sidings that were not added back in 2007. As more and more people commute not to New York City, but to corporations in places such as Montvale, trains running in both directions throughout the service day are ever more useful, or would be. Currently, the first Pascack Valley train of the day towards Spring Valley from Secaucus leaves at 9:05 a.m., certainly not useful for most commuters who have a 9-to-5 workday. We're concerned with parking lot price increases that are seemingly not well publicized in advance. Doing some quick research after learning of the September 1st increases at Denville and other stations, we noticed that parking lot and station ownership is very varied along the New Jersey transit system. We would like information about rates, operators, etc. It would be advantageous to have consistent charges and policies, although we realize that there are many factors, historical and current, that might prevent a really consistent system. A recent news item mentioned that in Barrington, Illinois, a new Metra lot with monthly permits will offer for use at regular daily rates some of those reserved monthly spaces that are not in use by 9:30 a.m. This strikes us as a good balance between meeting the needs of everyday commuters and those of occasional riders who might be going to a late morning, luncheon, or afternoon appointment or event. We offer this suggestion for consideration by the appropriate managers. I note that the Twitter account, the Secaucus Escalator, tweeted its complaint about Escalator 16 being out of service for 3 months. When I mentioned that to our chairman, he said, only 3 months? Sometimes it's been even longer. That's a really sad reputation to have. NJ Team 40 expects you to do much better. In closing, we want to address something that's been irritating to those of us who regularly attend these board meetings. The current consistent practice of opening the meeting and going straight into a closed session of indeterminate length. It has been brought to our attention, and again through Twitter, that doing this on an ongoing basis is likely illegal. Today you did manage to come back right at time at 10 o'clock. But however, that's not standard. Section F of NJSA 10:4-13, exclusion of public, resolution, adoption, contents, states, quote, a public body may not structure its meetings so that the public is essentially uninformed as to when the public session of a meeting will begin. For example, a public body may not continually open a public meeting, then immediately go into a closed session of indeterminate length, and only after that once again open the meeting to the public. Although you announce the public session will start no earlier than 10, that does not seem to be sufficient. Members of the public have often waited until 10:30 or later for the public session to start, and without a definite time, cannot be sure when to arrive. We cannot even step out with an understanding of what time to return. If it's truly important to you to have the executive session first, even though it means that public comments cannot be taken into account in these discussions, then we request that, finished or not, you break the executive session at 10 a.m. to begin the public portion of the meeting as scheduled and resume any remaining private deliberations after the rest of the meeting is complete. This enables not only we advocates, but reporters and members of the public who may not attend meetings regularly, but have a one-time issue to address, to do so professionally without needing to wait on the pleasure of the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Sevener.
Hello, I'm Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor, representing the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers, the New Jersey Sierra Club Transportation Committee, and a myriad of environmental groups desperate to stop fossil fuel expansion as yet another hurricane wipes out the Bahamas while Greenland melts. I should note that without using the much hyped electric car that I got here via electric transit, namely on electric rail, which is already running today for much of New Jersey transit rail lines, but totally overlooked, it seems, by all planning agencies and the DOT, except for the obligatory head wagging to quote public transit. The NJDOT and the latest NJTPA tip proposes spending over $1.4 billion on 22 road widening projects, almost all of them paralleled by either existing or potential electric rail, while spending the gargantuan sum of $1 million per year on transit-oriented development and nothing on rail electrification, let alone solar-powered rail. At the last board meeting, I pointed out that New Jersey transit grid has been gifted, thanks to Senator Menendez, with $500 million of Hurricane Sandy relief, of which astoundingly, about $400 million will go to fund a climate-destroying new 24/7 natural gas plant in the flood-prone Meadowlands. I suggested then that New Jersey has a unique opportunity to convert this largesse into instead funding solar microgrids to run New Jersey Transit rail in the event the rest of the grid goes down. The good news is that I have since discovered, and I gave you all the articles about it, solar-powered rail is already running in other countries, which provides a model for New Jersey poised to grab the mantle of the green transit state. Australia had the first solar-powered train using solar panels on the train cars themselves, supplemented by solar panels at train stations with energy storage. But recently, the most exciting development is that Austria in Europe is running solar-powered trains using solar-powered panels mounted between the catenaries over the tracks, which power the trains. Solar panels on existing catenaries can supply 1 to 3 megawatts of electricity per mile, which means that simply putting solar panels over all the existing 100 miles of NJ Transit catenaries would supply all the power, 104 megawatts, of the proposed $400 million natural gas plant. Existing solar farm prices are $1 million per 1 megawatt, which means solar trains, instead of natural gas, could actually save $300 million over the proposed $400 million for the natural gas plant. This could easily be supplemented, as I suggested at the last board meeting, by solar panels over all rail yards, rail parking lots, and on top of all transit-oriented development, along with solar energy storage being existing Tesla Powerwalls, which take 1 container per 1 megawatt of energy storage. Green Mountain Energy from Vermont is already running these kinds of solar microgrids, so this is not new technology. Again, that's in the information I gave you. New Jersey, since the time of Edison, Bell Labs, and even as far back as Alexander Hamilton, has always led the way for innovation. With our expertise in NJIT, Stevens, Rutgers, and others, we can and should become the first in the USA to implement solar-powered electric rail. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Peter Allen.
Good morning. First, a quick personal comment. Congratulations, Suzanne. Now that you've been honored this way, we sincerely hope that you will now change your policy and allow non-members to attend meetings of your committee. Many of you know me as chair of the Lackawanna Coalition, but today I represent advocates from both the coalition and the New Jersey Association of Railroad Passengers, NJR. Both organizations have been advocating on behalf of your riders since before New Jersey Transit was formed, and I am authorized to speak for them. Our organizations agree on many substantive issues, and several of our members are making statements today that represent the opinions of both our organizations and on these issues. I made 3 specific requests on behalf of my colleagues today, and they all boil down to one word: respect. In short, we expect that from now on, this board and management will treat us as what we are, the genuine advocates for your rail riders. And in short, our requests are as follows. 1, cease and desist from having one of your employees use the title of, quote, customer advocate, unquote. 2, negotiate a mutually agreed upon written understanding between us and us that will govern our future meetings with you. And 3, refrain from dismissive remarks about the advocacy community. I shall elaborate on each one. First, cease and desist from referring to one of your employees as a, quote, customer advocate. 59 days ago, as NJ Transit was celebrating its 40th anniversary, a senior manager called me into a one-on-one meeting without notice. At that time, I requested that NJ Transit stop calling one of your managers a customer advocate. This discredits us genuine customer advocates who have worked tirelessly for 40 years or more to secure better transit for your riders. It causes public confusion by telling riders that a manager is their advocate instead of us. It also smacks of an old anti-labor practice, the company union, when management formed its own employees association and claimed that it represented the workers. We do not object to a manager using a title like ombudsman or customer experience officer, but no manager can ever function as a legitimate advocate for your riders. My colleagues agree with me about this and the requests I make today. I sent written notice stating this to the manager in question, and he signed for it, but to date, he has not even given us an answer. Second, we call for a written understanding between you and us that will govern future meetings between us. We are willing to meet with management, discuss matters of concern to our constituents, but there must be ground rules for such meetings, negotiated between us and management, and set forth in writing. Nothing less would adequately ensure management's respect for the process and for us as the representatives of the riding public, or allow for verifiable agreements. Only with such a written understanding and the recognition it connotes can we be sure that management will take us and our efforts seriously, unlike the attitudes and behavior that we have experienced in the past. Third, we will not tolerate any dismissive remarks concerning us, whether intentional or not. At the July 17th board meeting, the commissioner's reference to, quote, armchair quarterbacks, unquote, seemed to be directed at our collective advocacy efforts. If that reference was not intended to apply to us, please let us know now if that is the case. If it was directed to us, it was dismissive on its face, and it disrespects us and dishonors our efforts to serve our constituents. We must remind you that our armchair overlooks this railroad and the practices of this transit system, and we have been sitting in it and keeping an eye on our rail lines since before New Jersey Transit was formed. We are here to share our knowledge and experience to help you and your riders. Thus, I repeat our third request that this management and board treat us with the respect that we deserve as long-standing advocates for both New Jersey Transit and its riders. When the riders' interests coincided with management, such as when we campaigned for more transit funding in Trenton, our efforts were strong and secure and sincere. We have advocated for better transit, better treatment for your employees when they were treated unfairly. We have consistently called for better transit during the good times years ago, during the lean times of the Christie administration, and at other times as well. Your riders deserve the best transit they can get. When you show contempt for us as their advocates, you also demonstrate your disdain for them. Whatever you do concerning us, we are united, and we will continue to do the best we can to advocate for your riders. It is time for a new day and new attitudes at New Jersey Transit concerning us and your customers. We and they deserve no less, but that decision and the future are up to you. We are ready. Are you?
Thank you. The next speaker is Doug O'Malley.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Doug O'Malley. I'm the Director of Environment New Jersey. I'm also a co-founder of the Jersey Renews, a coalition representing more than 60 faith, labor, community, and environmental organizations. And I'm proud to address the board this morning, not only as an organizational representative, but also to be joined by allies from Tri-State Transportation Campaign, Clean Water Action, Dr. Robert Lombok with Yoshi at Rutgers, representatives from Charge EBC, as well as representatives from Isles. And we are all here this morning because we are calling publicly for New Jersey Transit to commit to a full electrification of its bus fleet by 2040. I'm also proud to be joined in this call by the Senate Majority Leader, Loretta Weinberg, who, of course, needs to be in Trenton today because they have a voting session. The Senate Majority Leader put out a statement this morning, which I want to read directly from. Cutting vehicle emissions is critical to the fight against climate change. New Jersey Transit should be in the forefront of the conversion to a zero-emission electric bus fleet that is a priority for forward-looking mass transit agencies across the country. We couldn't agree more with the Senate Majority Leader. And specifically, when we think of where New Jersey Transit is, this is not an overnight transition. We are calling for an electrification plan over the course of the next 2 decades for NJ Transit. And the reason is quite simple. The current bus fleet obviously exists primarily on dirty diesel. Dirty diesel is a clear environmental hazard for riders, for community members, and even for the drivers themselves. And we are not obviously in an era of 15 years ago when we were proud to work with then acting Governor Dick Cody, members of the legislature, to push for a ballot measure to be able to retrofit some of our dirtiest diesel buses, as well as school buses and municipal garbage trucks around the fleet, around the state. There's a time, obviously, to improve the technology, and there's a time to make a transition, and we are advocating for that transition. We obviously are joined by more than 60 transit agencies across America that have made similar commitments to electrify their transit fleet. Some of the most notable ones, of course, are right across the river at MTA. And Andy Byford last year made a commitment to electrify the 5,700 MTA buses and cited the fact, research from Columbia University that said the health savings, the health impacts of transitioning a bus from diesel to electric was more than $150,000 per bus. And so that's a reminder, obviously, that this is a dollars and cents question for a capital expense, but this is also a human question. It's a question of public health, and we'll hear that later from other speakers. I think it's also critical to note that MTA is not the only transit agency in America that's making this commitment. SEPTA has 35 electric buses on the road right now. TriMet in Oregon has also made a commitment to 2040, as well as Los Angeles, which has made a commitment to 2030. The Metro Transit in Minnesota canceled its purchase of diesel buses, and the new mayor of Chicago committed CTA to a 2040 timeline as well. So there's a broad movement around the country. One of obviously the impediments to electrifying New Jersey Transit's fleet is finding a stable source of funding. And we are proud to join New Jersey Transit and our advocates to call on the legislature and the governor to fund New Jersey Transit in a dedicated fashion. Because right now we've had a legacy of rating our capital budget to feed our operating expense year after year. And we need to fix that for a myriad of reasons. But part of it is if we're going to move towards electrification of our bus fleet, which we must do, we need to have that dedicated source of funding. We stand here as advocates wanting to work with New Jersey Transit and also want to highlight some of the other opportunities for funding, including the electric vehicle filing that has been put in front of the Board of Public Utilities by PSE&G. There is a movement afoot around the state. The Volkswagen settlement, and I'd be remiss without commenting that we are obviously incredibly excited for the pilot project in Camden of 8 electric buses through the Volkswagen settlement. We need more of those projects, and we need more of them in the early 2020s in our major urban areas, and we need to have a commitment to electrify the rest of the fleet at the end of the next decade. I just want to conclude my comments by saying that, at the end of the day, this is about the health of not only the public and our citizens and our riders, but some of the most vulnerable residents of the state, especially those that suffer from asthma. We have more than 700,000 asthma sufferers. That's predominantly in our urban areas. The time to electrify is now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kim Gaddy.
Good morning. My name is Kim Gaddy. I am the environmental justice organizer for Clean Water Action. I'm a third-generation Norker, and I'm a mother of 3 asthmatic children. And I stand here today because this issue of pollution emissions is an environmental justice issue. New Jersey Transit isn't even in the top 60 of U.S. transportations, all of who have committed much more and or deployed electric buses throughout their communities. And I understand that New Jersey Transit will deploy 8 electric buses in 2021. And that's just not going to cut it. That's just not enough. Specifically, in the city of Newark, we are ground zero and breathe in toxic diesel fumes on a daily basis. We can't escape from the diesel fumes. We live in a diesel death zone that unfortunately causes premature deaths to so many of us who reside here. The diesel fumes, as I stated, is everywhere, and our children, 54,000 school children, travel to and from school daily. I'm not even going to talk about how many college students we have in the city of Newark, but 54,000 in our public school system who take the bus to school on a daily basis or walk to their community schools are exposed to these fumes, which impact their health and their ability to learn. Just because we live in a certain zip code does not mean we don't deserve to breathe clean air or have electric buses in our community. That's an environmental injustice. New Jersey Transit needs to get real today and commit to and accelerate converting to 100% electric buses in their fleet. It's critical to not only to reduce your carbon footprint, to decrease the heat island effect, and more importantly, again, to begin to address the issues, the health issues that impact our children, our elderly, and our most vulnerable communities, not only in the city of Newark, but in the other EJ communities as well, who suffer from asthma attacks, parents running to the ER, those children missing school, those parents then have to miss work if their children are not able to attend school, and again, dying at an early age. We have to begin to change this, and we need New Jersey Transit to step up and be the leader that we expect you to be. And now I want to read something from one of my colleagues who couldn't make it today, New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, Nicole Scott Harris. As the 3rd largest public transportation provider in the nation, also located in the most densely populated state in the country, it is incumbent of New Jersey Transit to assume the position of leadership in developing a state-of-the-art equipped to meet the needs of the 21st century. Transportation accounts for a significant portion of pollution emissions in the state, making investments in electrification both a public health and ecological imperative. As we see here in Newark, the state's largest environmental justice city, and also home to New Jersey's largest transit hub, air quality is a major concern for a community burden of cumulative impacts correlated with the prevalence of many diseases and reduced life expectancy. We call on New Jersey Transit to electrify their bus fleets today. Thank you, and looking forward to you doing the right thing by us.
Thank you. The next speaker is Robert Lombok.
Good morning. My name is Robert Lombok. I'm a occupational environmental medicine physician, but also a family physician at the School of Public Health at Rutgers. I do research on the health effects of air pollution, and we're learning new things about the health effects of air pollution all the time, and it's generally not good news in that we've known for a long time that air pollution, especially diesel exhaust air pollution, contributes to increased risk of asthma. We found in the last decade or so that it also increases risk of heart attacks. We've also found more recently that it seems to be increasing risk of adverse birth outcomes, low birth weight, other problems, premature birth in our urban areas. It also may contribute, based on recent evidence, to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So it really has far-reaching effects. The soot particles in diesel exhaust get deep into the lungs and then can actually affect other parts of the body as well. And as was commented earlier, diesel exhaust happens where people are. So unlike other sources of air pollution, which come out of smokestacks, perhaps from power plants, maybe from manufacturing facilities, diesel exhaust is emitted where people are. So whether it's on the street or whether they're inside a bus and the diesel exhaust gets entrained inside the bus, the driver or the passengers are being exposed. So pound for pound, diesel exhaust has more effect on health than other sources of particulate matter or other air pollution. So diesel exhaust really is, as was said earlier, an environmental justice issue, and that again, the people that are most vulnerable are affected in our communities, especially urban communities. So in addition to those respiratory and other health effects of diesel exhaust, we also know that it's a carcinogen that causes lung cancer. So all these risks together make diesel exhaust what I call like a very hyper-local health effect. It's affecting people on a daily basis where they live and work, where they are outside on the street. But it's also a global health issue. As you know, diesel exhaust emissions from diesel combustion engines includes carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas that's changing the climate, but also produces black carbon, essentially the soot, which also forces climate. So diesel exhaust, unlike some other sources, like other transportation from gasoline engines, for example, which is primarily for greenhouse gases, CO2, diesel exhaust has this additional effect of the black carbon. And unlike the other CO2 from other sources of greenhouse gases, black carbon has an immediate effect. So if we can reduce black carbon in the environment, we can have a more immediate effect on climate change. So really, again, diesel exhaust goes from a very hyper-local environmental health issue to a global environmental health issue. And I think it's really important that New Jersey Transit be a leader in this area to move towards electrification of the bus fleet by 2040. I think in some ways, diesel exhaust is like what cigarette smoke was 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago, when people took it for granted that people were going to smoke in public places, people were going to smoke in restaurants and so on. I think we just sort of take it for granted today, and we have taken it for granted that buses come with diesel fumes. But we don't have to do that. We have technology now where we can avoid those effects from diesel exhaust. And really, diesel bus is a beautiful thing. If you've ever seen it, it's quiet. Another health effect of buses, old diesel buses, is the noise. So it's quiet, it's clean, you don't smell the fumes. It's something that people in New Jersey deserve, and I hope we can get it soon. Whatever you can do to help that, I think myself and the medical community would appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Annie Martinez.
Thank you. My name is Annie Martinez, and I am the bilingual environmental educator with New Jersey's League of New Jersey Conservation Voters. Before I start, I wanted to give a personal thank you because on 9/11, I actually was on a New Jersey Transit bus and was blown away by how heroic the bus driver was in that situation. I really believe they deserve all the credit. I hope that they were given the recognition and a pretty award ceremony as well, because they really do deserve it. And they stepped up on that day, and I hope that the board steps up now to face the challenges we have. So the transportation sector is responsible for contributing 1/3 of the nation's harmful GHGs emissions in New Jersey. The share jumps to nearly half. State nationwide are keeping this in mind as they make important decisions about our future and their transportation infrastructures. From buses to trains to share rides, transit officials are transitioning to electric modes of transportation that are cleaner, cheaper to maintain, and save money on fuel. In October of 2017, the mayors of 12 major cities, including Los Angeles, Seattle, London, Paris, and Mexico City, announced they would purchase only zero-emission buses by 2025. Already in the U.S., more than 60 agencies have demonstrated a commitment to electrifying bus fleets, resulting in over 5,000 electric bus purchases annually. U.S. investments in electric buses are expected to rise 18.5% to $1.9 billion from $745 million in 2018. By 2025, 33% of the country's buses will be zero emission, thanks to the pledges made by transit agencies. As New Jersey works to become a national leader in addressing the climate crisis, highlighted by our noteworthy efforts in building an offshore wind economy, expanding community solar access, and other noteworthy initiatives outlined in the Clean Renewable Energy Bill, we cannot forget about transportation and the problems, nature of its emissions. There are more than 167,000 children with asthma in New Jersey. The number only rises. The American Lung Association routinely rates New Jersey's air quality as lousy. There's no sugarcoating this. We need to do better. If New Jersey cannot lead on this, we at least need to follow suit. We need to purchase buses and electrify by 2030 or sooner. We need to commit to a contingency plan that actually transforms our supply chain mechanisms with actual benchmarks. We need a swift action. The longer we take to act, the more drastic our transition becomes. In addition, the more time squandered on ironing out the numbers aids in further burdening the vulnerable communities already paying an unconscionable price with their health and well-being. If equity and the environmental issues specifically and explicitly are not considered when we address climate change policy, we run the risk of perpetuating and exasperating the inequalities that already exist in our society. The key to slowing down climate change is reducing the emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse emissions economy-wide. Let us now start our public transportation and then with our school buses. Life is changing, and it's time for us to change. We don't need another Hurricane Sandy to be motivated. We need to act now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Pamela Frank.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm with Charge EVC. Charge EVC is a New Jersey state-based coalition comprised of some strange bedfellows. We've got our investor-owned utilities, technology companies, environmental advocates, consumer advocates, the Automobile Retailers Association, Proterra, a number of OEMs. It's an interesting organization formed nearly 4 years ago, and we work for the sole purpose of accelerating the electrification of transportation. I think that we've heard today from a number of advocates that spell out, I think, things that this board probably is already very well aware of. And the real question before you is always how we get to this place of full electrification. And we understand this is not an easy task. But first and foremost, it starts by setting goals. We want to see New Jersey Transit embracing a 2040 goal of 100% electrification. And it has been pointed out, we have seen other transit agencies around the country doing this. But we also want to assure you that we do not expect that you would be able to accomplish this feat alone or in the way that you have traditionally gone about procuring and planning when it comes to bus fleets. This is a very different proposition. 100% electrification represents something very new, and it is at this point in time that the technology is now available for us to be able to contemplate this transition. And there's a few points I want to make about this. The first is, we talk a lot in the state about public-private partnerships. We need to actually make those public-private partnerships real. And by this, what I mean is that we need to gather the right folks around the table from the public sector and from the private sector in a disciplined and focused way to figure out a path to electrify transit. This is currently not happening, and it needs to happen. In particular, the electric infrastructure that is required to fuel and allow these buses to run on electricity should not be on the books of New Jersey Transit. There's a lot of conversation about this. We have 2 utility filings before the Board of Public Utilities, and we need to start this conversation today. This represents a very interesting opportunity to fundamentally change the way that transit has been funding its transportation assets. Capital costs for buses themselves need to be looked at because, as we recognize, electric buses are batteries on wheels. And in an era of distributed energy technology, where the state is looking at things like solar and microgrids and storage, what we understand is that these buses become what we refer to as grid edge technology. When they are not roaming the streets, they can also be serving a purpose to help services on the grid, the electric grid that we're operating, that is also going through a bit of a reinvention. As I said before, I don't think you can be alone in doing this. I spent about 10 years in the solar industry a long time ago. I know what it's like to set goals that seem to be impossible to reach. In 2002, we had 11 solar systems in the state. We now have over 100,000. In 2003, we talked about setting a goal of 90 megawatts of solar by 2020. We thought that was a shoot for the moon goal. We have nearly 30 times that today. So I would hope that you would have the leap of faith it is going to require to set ambitious goals, but also the humility and I think the willingness to engage in some different kinds of partnerships and conversations so we together can figure out how to get New Jersey Transit to 100% electrification. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sherry Rollins.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Rollins, and I'm a lifelong resident of New Jersey. Currently, I reside in Linden and rely on the 48, 59, and 94 buses. I use New Jersey Transit buses mainly to commute to choir practice, church service, shopping, and volunteering with the National Federation of the Blind and Trinitas Regional Medical Center. I'd like this agency to acquire more funding in order to purchase electric buses. A few weeks ago, I waited for this 57 bus in Linden to go to ShopRite in Aviation Plaza. I called New Jersey Transit customer service 3 times to inquire about the next bus arrival time. The first 2 times I was told that the bus would arrive at 9:40 a.m. and at 10:30 a.m. After my final call, I learned that the bus was out of commission. There were faulty brakes, and I will not be able to complete my grocery shopping. Bus breakdowns from New Jersey Transit exacerbates the problem and disrupts my life. And as someone who works with a disabled population, I worry about the air pollution from buses and increase in asthma rates. The best way to ameliorate everything is to purchase electric buses. It can lead to fewer breakdowns and reduce air pollution. This can lead to longer operational hours and better service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jana Chernetz.
Good morning, board members, President CEO Kevin Corbett. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Jana Chernetz. I am the Deputy Director for the Tri-State Transportation Campaign. I have provided the handout that we used for the press conference this morning on moving towards electric buses. I really don't have much to add. I think what our speakers have said before us was a very comprehensive explanation of the importance of transitioning to 100% electric vehicles for New Jersey Transit. We do look forward to continuing to work with you to meet these goals. As you said about advocacy, sometimes we need to point out and critique the agency, but it's also important for advocates to also point out when New Jersey Transit is moving in the right direction. And I'd like to speak on 2 particular board items. The first one being the Trans-Hudson study. This is a very critical a study for the region, especially for short-term fixes as we're waiting for the Gateway Tunnel to be built and the Port Authority bus terminal. We need to keep the region going, and it's very important that there be a plan B and a short-term solution to making sure that the region can move smoothly. We saw when there was the rail contingency plan, when there was a possibility of a rail strike, only 40% of rail customers were able to be accommodated for on other modes of transportation in the state. So it's very important that there is substantial thought process into making sure that people can still move. And I hope to work with you as you move forward as one of the stakeholders that you're contemplating as part of the study. Also, the inventory of transit-owned property. I believe this was a result of the passage and signing of S2333, which established the Office of Transit-Oriented Development within New Jersey Transit. Part of the requirement was to have a complete inventory that was made public by October 1st. So New Jersey Transit owns some of the most lucrative property in the state. And given the funding crisis that New Jersey Transit has, especially with their operating revenue, this is one of the biggest places that we need to look to find opportunities for New Jersey Transit to capitalize on their assets, to provide the funding for the things that everybody has been speaking about today, whether it's electrifying buses or just simply New Jersey Transit being able to hold true to their mission statement of reliable, safe, affordable, and convenient transportation. So finding sustainable funding sources, long-term funding sources is critical to that. New Jersey Transit riders have historically have been faced with the burden of funding New Jersey Transit's operating budget. About 50% of the revenue comes from consumer fares. This is an outlier as compared to other transit agencies where they rely on customer fares for roughly 28 to 33%. So no longer can New Jersey Transit riders be looked upon to bridge funding gaps. So with that said, I think this is a good start. We need to start leveraging these assets and calling upon the administration and the agency to work diligently so that we no longer have to find the annual one-shot funding sources to keep New Jersey Transit rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bruce Bergen.
Good morning, Commissioner, President, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As I believe you know, my name is Bruce Bergen. I'm chairman of the Raritan Valley Rail Coalition. I wanted to let you know that this coming Monday evening, September 16th, we're going to be holding a public meeting at the Community Center in Cranford at 6:30, and we've invited commuters and the general public. I want to, it's my understanding you are sending a representative, and I want to thank you for that. The keynote speaker is going to be a representative from the Regional Plan Association, who's going to be speaking about their report, A Preventable Crisis, which I'm sure you know talks about the severe impact economically and on the way of life of those in this area and really the whole country if one of the two current tunnels should fail. And we want to make sure the public is continues to be aware of that ongoing crisis. And in that regard, the coalition continues to support the RPA, and we are a member of Build Gateway Now in their efforts to keep moving that tunnel along. In light of that, I also, as the previous speaker did, want to acknowledge your agenda item of funding for the Trans-Hudson Network Planning Strategy Report. Obviously, the new tunnels are not opening next week, and it is very important that we have alternate strategies in place should the worst come to pass. Directing your attention more directly to the Raritan line, I want to thank you for this past summer's spruce up along the line. It doesn't change the service, but at least it makes it a little more pleasant and safer and easier for our riders to get into the station, so we thank you for that. And of course, as I always do, I have to close with my plea, if you will, for resumption of the limited one-seat ride and expansion of one-seat ride on the Raritan Valley line. And trust me, nothing would please me more than not to have to speak about this at every board meeting. We remain concerned that in spite of our frequent requests for even minimal information on when you believe and what the plan is for reinstating the limited one-seat ride, we've really got no response to that question. As noted previously, other lines have, and even in the last week, gotten some of their suspended service restored, but still the Raritan Valley line, we really have no information on when that's going to happen. I would suggest to you that it is now the time to reveal concrete plans for the long overdue resumption of the limited one-seat ride, and I hope that we will get a response from you with specifics in the near future as to what the impediments are, how they're being dealt with, and how quickly we can have that restored. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joseph Clift.
Good morning. My name is Joe Clift. In a past life, I was head of planning at the Long Island Railroad, but I'm merely an armchair quarterback today. But I'm an observed armchair quarterback, and I have a handout. I don't know if it's possible to get this to the chair by I sent it to you belatedly. Zuchek, I don't know if you can send it to the chair.
I will send it to her.
But I want to talk about one thing today only. Portal North Bridge, tomorrow, 3 weeks late, New Jersey Transit is going to turn in their new application. This will be the 7th in a row over the 3 years for an $800 million grant from the federal government to fund Portal North Bridge, which has no traffic going under it today. And I want to talk today about the fact that there are lies in this application that have been going on since 2015. Two key issues here. Number one is a claim that you can't run multi-level cars onto tracks 1 through 4 at Penn Station. Anybody that goes into Penn Station and rides out and gets on trains on 1 through 4 is getting on multi-levels all the time. I went out this morning to Secaucus and I wrote down what cars run what trains. Out of 20 trains in the peak hour for New Jersey Transit, 3 were arrows, 16 were multi-levels, and there was one comment because you didn't have enough multi-levels today. It's normally a multi-level train. The claim has been made over and over again that there are 6 trains that are comets that cannot run into Penn Station as multi-levels until you have Portal North Bridge. Those trains are running in there today. They were running in last year. I don't know when they started, but claiming that those trains require Portal North Bridge is a lie. The second argument that's made is that you have no data after 2015, so you keep reporting 2015 data. Every year in October, you collect information on train movements, passengers on trains. You send it in to NMTC, New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, and every year after that, they come out with a book. They already have the book for 2016 and 2017 in there. You have passengers on trains. The claim that you have no data after 2015 is a lie. The reason it's a good lie is that if you reported current information, you wouldn't be able to claim this 11.6% increase in seats you need to get this grant. Bottom line, you are sending in information to the federal government that is a lie. If you are sending information in to gain money, then that's what's called fraud. I'm not a lawyer, but common sense says that you need to stop sending in this information. At some point, the FDA is going to wake up and realize this $800 million you want is not really available to you and should go to other transit authorities. So please do not continue to send in this information. A couple of comments on what was said today. Number one, Senator Weinberg said very clearly in an op-ed piece in the news and in a statement, I think, to the Gateway Development Corporation, that she wanted to see a short-term and a long-term plan for restoring service on New Jersey Transit by Labor Day. By my count, we're headed on the second week after Labor Day. So somewhere she wanted that public. So there ought to be information. When's the Raritan Valley going to get its 16 trains back? When is the Gladstone going to get its weekend trains back? So on and so forth. There are several dozen trains across the network that are not running. There's one in the peak hour that's not running. But I thought Senator Weinberg was very clear. By Labor Day, she wants to see, in fact, she said at your Montclair press conference, she said, I want to see what you can do in 3 days, 3 months, and 3 years. So we should be seeing that. Also, I just want to comment, I'd really like to not see the orange shirts here because Mr. G has been successful. And I think it's sad that we continue to see people having to come to deal with that. Two other things quickly. Avenel, I'm glad you've added service, but Avenel, I think it's 4 cars long. Are you going to extend it? Because that makes that trip harder to run. And secondly, I came in today from New York. I'm across the Hudson Ocean in New York. I came in on track 5, which normally you don't. But because you're working on other tracks, track 5 is where you come in on. And guess what? The up escalator is out of service. It looks like it's been out of service for months. So I'm wondering how people went about not getting the escalator fixed before you started shifting trains. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have 7 speakers on behalf of Russell Grady. The first and last speaker will have 5 minutes to provide comments. All other speakers will have 2 minutes for comments. The first speaker is Errol Kerr.
Good morning. Let me quickly congratulate those the honorees this morning, and let me also welcome the new members of the board. It's always good to see new faces. I don't want to take it for granted this morning that the new members in particular is aware of the issue why we are here today. So I believe it is incumbent upon us to briefly state the reason why we are here. We are here because for the past 15 years, we are struggling with the New Jersey Transit for something that should be common to all of us, and that's justice for Mr. Grady. In 2004, I believe it was, which governor was there in 2004? I believe it was McGreevey. It's a long time ago. Mr. Grady was rooted out of a thriving business by the New Jersey Transit. a decision that has caused him to lose a lot of money, to put a lot of pressure on his family, and has completely turned his life inside out. So he's been struggling since then with the New Jersey Transit, asking for a level of justice. How can you mend a broken heart? It's not possible. This man's life was practically destroyed. But he's been struggling just to get a semblance of justice from New Jersey Transit, which they have denied him over these 15 years. Now, it's not too late. It's not too late. And I'm very happy to see representative from the governor's office here today. It's fair to say that New Jersey Transit has placed something on the table. But I think what they have placed on the table is so disgraceful. It's almost disrespecting him and victimizing him. Again, I think if you're going to give him something, you ought to be reasonable with it, you ought to be fair with it, and you have to respect that he has lost so much. So we're here this morning to appeal to your graces, to appeal to your humanity, to appeal to your empathy that Mr. Grady needs a level of justice. So what we're asking for is not for him to be victimized a second time. What we're asking for is for New Jersey Transit to sit with us, deliberate a fair resolution to this matter. I know you cannot make him whole. There's no way you can make him whole. But at least you have to respect the level of his suffering. Just don't throw a bone at him and say, look, take it or leave it. That's not how it is. That's not how it is. So we're asking New Jersey Transit, please bring this to a level of closure. We will not stop coming down here and arguing with you until something is done, something which we consider to be reasonable. And it takes two to tango. So we're asking you, please, reconsider the offer that is on the table so that we can stop coming here in these orange shirts. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Donna Ivy. Donna's not here. The next speaker is Bernard Hill Sr.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to consider all of the new faces that are amongst us. I stand before you in this orange shirt in dignity and in fairness to the fact that we've been looking into this matter for some time now. Consideration should be already on the table for and about injustice that has happened to a proud and dignified individual by the name of Mr. Russell Grady. We come before you in these shirts so you can see us. We're talking loud, we're speaking clearly about making fairness visible for this man of dignity, pride, in the name of humanity. To bring this man to an understanding of why this happened in the first place with resolve. We're asking you to dig very, very deep into resolution because it's needed. There's no reason why this should not be taken care of thus far. So we're asking you to clarify one's mirror that God has put before you to consider a decency in resolving this situation. So this is my reason for standing before you in representation. We stand and we talk and we speak loud for Mr. Russell Grady in fairness. Make him whole. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Princess Reeves.
Do you have a replacement, please?
Certainly. What's the name?
Winnie Harrison.
Certainly. Winnie Harrison.
Good morning, everyone. In reference to Mr. Grady, Mr. G, as we call him, I would like to say we apologize for coming down here and standing in front of the new board because we thought the old board would resolve this issue. And we hear a lot that's going on in New Jersey Transit, and we appreciate New Jersey Transit for the transportation, but we are hurt beyond measures of what has happened to Mr. Grady. And that's why we come down here continuously, not only in the orange shirts, but mentally and emotionally, we are hurting because we understand his suffering, and we wouldn't want anyone to suffer like he has. And on his behalf, we come to say that we love him, and we pray that all this will be resolved. This is another year after 15 years, and that's some children's lifetime. And we just appreciate all that. I don't know if the new board has all the documentations that they need, but maybe they have clarity. Maybe they may have understanding, and maybe they will put themselves in Mr. Grady's shoes and see what he has been going through. And we, because we love him and we appreciate him for what he has done in Patterson and what he was trying to do in Atlantic City. Maybe everybody don't know the story, but it is a history, and it should go down in the books to let them know that we will continue to stand strong for him and with him. But we just praying that this is the last day that we come down here on this issue, and hopefully we could come down here and say thank you on the next time, and everything shall be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jamie Bland. He's not here. The next speaker is Janet McDaniel.
Good morning. I'd like to say good morning to the board, new board members, the secretary, the president, who's, I think, with us by telephone, a conference, no? Director. I'd also like to add congratulations to those persons who were recognized for their service to New Jersey Transit. So much has been said. A number of people have made comments. I think one of the threads that I heard that I want to hear repeated was about respect. But let me first talk about contracts. When one of your riders purchases a ticket for service on your rails, they enter into a contractual agreement. There's almost a quid pro quo. In exchange for a fee, you agree to provide a service. They have a reasonable expectation that you will provide those services with fairness. There are times when you cannot meet those expectations. Things happen above and beyond your control. When that happens, you should provide some kind of justice. There should be some kind of remediation, some kind of alternative in place. When Mr. G entered into a contract, a lease arrangement for 20 years with New Jersey Transit, he had a reasonable expectation that he would be able to enjoy his livelihood, that his business would prosper, and that his family would be able to take over his legacy. Something happened. We don't have to rehash what that something was, because I'll take another few seconds. By virtue of the fact that we've gotten this far, there's a recognition, am I still on the mic? There's a recognition that something needed to happen. In interest of time, I will shorten what I wanted to say. The fact of the matter is that fairness and justice is his entitlement. You, not those of you sitting, but New Jersey Transit entered into an agreement with Mr. G. He did not decide to bail out of that. He needs to be treated with respect. His offer needs to take into consideration what he has gone through and what has happened to him. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He needs fairness and justice. We believe we're going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker is Russell Grady.
Good morning, Board. I trust that everybody had a pleasant summer with your family and all the people that's in this room, my supporters and others. I come before you again, and as I was sitting there thinking, why is it so difficult for this board to reach a fair judgment when it comes to selling this case? And I start to see it in this manner. You're never going to be able to reach a fair conclusion in this case until you first admit that something took place. I believe that you're trying to look at some activity around 207 to make your decision. But the real damage was done to me starting in 204. If you go back and look at what happened starting in 204 and what led up to what happened in 207, unless you admit it in terms of what really happened, devastating, cost me millions of dollars, and it was done on purpose. You didn't have to do that. Somebody in New Jersey Transit just didn't like the fact that I was there because you tried to block me from the very beginning. I work very hard. I'm a dedicated person. I take care of my obligations, and you will find that I was probably one of the best vendors that you ever had. If you go back and truly look at what took place in 204 leading up to 207, I would advise you to hold your nose. Something smell. People became judges. Now I say this, the person who represented me, worked on my case, became executive director of this board. And that shut me out completely. I was just a pawn in your hand. Until you're willing to face up to the facts in terms of what happened, in terms of the amount of damage that took place, we'll never solve this problem. If you're going to say, we only giving him this because we just like for him to go away with your own church, there's no other reason that we should deal with this case, then you're never going to be able justify what you need to do for me. We have a governor, Governor Murphy, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, Attorney General Greenwald. I just don't think you want to govern or be in charge of a state that could be so unfair and devastating to your African American people in this state. And I'll say this, and this is going a bit far. If you really look at what happened is, there's attorneys that shouldn't have the right to operate and function in this state or any other state. That's how bad it was. It just is totally ridiculous. The distance and the money. The place sat empty 7 years after you threw me out. Why? Because you just didn't want an African American person there. That was unfair. That was a lot of damage caused. Operating a perfect business. Great earnings. Didn't do anything to anybody. I repeat, paid my rent for 2 years after you threw me out. I had an in-debt service with EDA of the state of New Jersey, $200,000. I paid all of that. I dare anyone to get up and prove that I did anything wrong to receive the injustice that I received. I've said several times, and I have to say that I had to eat those words, that I was going to take this to another level. I haven't gone there yet. There's been statements made that we got to think of our riders. I believe you do have to think of your riders. But I don't even think your riders want you to do to anybody, whether it's African American or anybody else, what you did to me. I don't think they would agree to that. They would agree and they would support fairness and justice until you reach the point where you're really willing to go to something that's reasonable from where you are now. This case won't be solved, and I'll have to take it to the next level. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate what you've done, and I can understand the position that you find yourself. But until you have the guts to get out of that position and do something that is fair, we're just not going anywhere. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Board members, there are no further speakers. Board members, there are no further speakers.
Thank you, Joyce. Suzanne Mack will present the advisory committee report, please.
Good morning. And first of all, I'd like to thank you all for acknowledging not only myself, but the work of the two advisory committees in New Jersey. It's deeply appreciated. I'd like to say that I actually believe that coming to the meetings, they are so open, and there are so many different views that are expressed at our meetings here, and I truly believe that you do go back from these meetings. At least I know I do, and I talk to my committees about the issues that are raised at it. But our responsibility, or my responsibility here, is to advise the board on the agenda items, and I will be doing that in a second. But I did want to take a minute just to acknowledge that yesterday was the 18th anniversary of 9/11, and I think we all have acknowledged it in everything we do. But having been here and experienced New Jersey Transit's response on that day, I will tell you, just as Kevin had said, we are so proud of the employees of New Jersey Transit. Back in that day, we had a real crisis, and the whole world turned upside down. And New Jersey Transit employees, not only New Jersey Transit employees, but the Port Authority, the police departments, and also New York Waterways came to the rescue and actually helped everybody through that very, very difficult time. But I would say just something we wouldn't think of. It took New Jersey Transit a few years to recover from that, because what happened was, all of a sudden, Lower Manhattan was not the place that we were taking our customers, because our customers had to move out of Lower Manhattan. They had to move to, some moved to New Jersey for a short term, but some moved to Midtown. And if you went back through the history of all this, you would see that the ridership reports reflected that were done by the planning departments, the service disruptions that took years of recovery. I've said this before, and the advisory board has said this before. From that time, we not only had that disruption, but we've had several weather-related disruptions with Sandy, and it's just been a very difficult, challenging time, decades of trying to continue to fulfill our mission to provide safe, reliable service, which was mentioned here. So today, I would have to say that I look at the agenda maybe from a little bit different point of view, because I see everything that the board is responsible for and everything that has happened since the new administration has taken hold. And I actually see, if you put a filter on it, you would say that you see an agenda today that shows your accountability. When you came into office, your biggest challenge, or one of your biggest challenges, was the positive train control. And you see today that you are not only providing positive train control, but you're providing board actions that will support that as you fill out and as you fulfill that. Also, I believe I agree totally with the Tri-State Regional Plan Commission that this Trans-Hudson study is just critical to us, because unfortunately we were delayed by political decision. It's been happening for a long time, so I'm glad to see that it will be happening. But I think I think both the real estate report, which the governor had asked for, is a tremendous opportunity to look at New Jersey Transit's assets. But I also think one of the last things on your agenda is the continuation of the North Highland report, which was the governor's commitment to the state to have an independent audit of New Jersey Transit, to give you the strategic plan and the blueprint from which you make your decisions at the board level. So I would just like to say I heard every comment that was made today by the advocates and by the riders and by Mr. Grady, and I'm sure that everything here will be answered, whether it's improved service, whether it's this, that, or the other. But the advisory board meeting, our advisory boards are meeting late this month. We're meeting the week of the 26th. And I assure you, if there's anything you want to send over to us to look into, and especially something on the electric or the environmental, the sustainability issues, we'd be happy to delve into that and report back to you also. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Board Member Wilton will present the Operations and Customer Service Committee report.
Yeah, hit the mic button.
Thank you, Chairwoman. The Operations and Customer Service Committee received an update on trends, analysis, and actions for rail, bus, light rail, and access link. The committee also received an update on social media activities and cost of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Caniff will present the Administration Committee report.
The Administration Committee received a financial update. This included an update on ridership and revenue, cost of service, key performance indicators, major balance sheet items, and attrition and hires. The committee also received updates on human resources and equal opportunity and affirmative action. Thank you.
Thank you. I will present the Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee report. The committee discussed the following items: positive train control, contract amendments for professional support services, positive train control software license agreements with WABTEC Rail, Way Electronics, Inc., and Meteorcom, LLC, positive train control Siemens software purchase and license agreement, Meadows Maintenance Complex parking lot improvements construction contract award, collapsed pipe replacement under Church Street on the North Jersey coastline in Middletown, New Jersey, construction services for the replacement of culvert 30.19 on the Gladstone line, approval of revolving credit agreement and issuance of grant anticipation notes, Series 2019, Trans-Hudson Network Strategy Contract Award, extension of covenant not to compete agreement on the number 300 bus route, and New Jersey Transit-owned real estate submittal, capital program management professional services contract. That concludes that report. Because I am remote today, because of some issues we're dealing with at DOT, the only thing that I will respond to as far as the request of Mr. Allen is that my comment regarding anybody as an armchair quarterback has nothing to do with those who serve in advocacy. You are knowledgeable of the issues that you address to the board, and armchair quarterbacks are usually folks who, maybe reply once or twice on a topic that they don't take the time to study. So I'm sorry that you may have taken that as directed at the advocates who come to visit us, but that was certainly not my intention. With that, I will ask Kevin Corbett to go ahead and present our action items.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to now introduce Eric DeLeo, SVP Capital Programs, present Board Item 1909-47. Eric.
Thank you, President Corbett. We are recommending approval of item 1909-47, Advanced Speed Enforcement System 2, Positive Train Control Contract and Contract Amendment for Professional Support Services. Since 2010, HNTB has been providing staff augmentation and technical services to support the Positive Train Control project. And as this project transitions into the next phase, supporting rail operations and the intensive testing and other commissioning requirements, New Jersey Transit advanced a competitive request for proposals to provide this next phase of services. WSP is recommended to provide services to effectuate the project. Authorization is requested to amend NJ Transit contract number 10-010 with HNTB Corporation for additional staff augmentation, specialized engineering, program management, and technical support services during this transitional period at a cost not to exceed $3,454,030 plus 5% for contingencies, for a total contract authorization amount not to exceed $45,316,545.74, subject to the availability of funds. Authorization is also requested to enter into New Jersey Transit contract number 19-029 with WSP of Newark, New Jersey, for expanded staff augmentation, specialized engineering, program management, and technical support services at a cost not to exceed $48 million plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask your approval of item 1909-47.
May I have a motion to move this item?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, please take roll call.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez-Cachetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Joyce.
I'd now like to introduce Ray Kenny, Senior Vice President, General Manager of Rail Ops, present Board Item 1909-48.
Good morning. We are recommending approval of item 1909-48, Advanced Speed Enforcement System 2, Positive Train Control, Software License Agreements with Wabtec Railway Electronics Incorporated and Mediacom LLC Electronics Incorporated of Cedar Rapids, Indiana, at a cost not to exceed $1.5 million plus 5% for contingencies to enter into an agreement with Mediacom LLC of Renton, Washington, at a cost not to exceed $1.5 million plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-48.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, roll call, please.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez-Cachetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'd now ask Ray to continue with the next item, 1909-49, which is also regarding PTC.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-49, Advanced Speed Enforcement System 2, Positive Train Control, Siemens Software Purchase and License Agreement. Authorization is requested to enter into an agreement with Siemens AG of Munich, Germany, at a cost not to exceed $3 million plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-49.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez-Cachetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, now I'd like to bring Eric back up for item 1909-50.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-50, Meadows Maintenance Complex Parking Lot Improvements Construction Contract Award. Authorization is requested to enter into New Jersey Transit contract number 19-046X with Crisdell Group Incorporated of South Plainfield, New Jersey, for the construction of the Meadows Maintenance Complex Parking Lot Improvements Project in an amount not to exceed $5,794,319 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask your approval of item 1909-50.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, I'd like Ray Kenny to come back up to present board item 1909-51.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-51, collapsed pipe replacement under Church Street on New Jersey Transit, North Jersey coastline, milepost 12.70, Middletown, New Jersey. Authorization is requested to enter into New Jersey Transit contract number 19-022X with Walls Construction Company, LLC of Little Falls, New Jersey, to perform construction services for the replacement of the collapsed pipe under the Church Street grade crossing on the North Jersey coastline at milepost 12.70 at a cost not to exceed $2,010,010 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-51.
May I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, roll call, please.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Great, I'd now like Ray to stay up and present board item 1909-52.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-52, construction services for the replacement of culvert 30-19 on the New Jersey Transit Gladstone line. Authorization is requested to enter into New Jersey Transit contract number 19-042X with Montana Construction Corporation of Lodi, New Jersey, for general contracting construction services for the replacement of the culvert on the New Jersey Transit Gladstone line at milepost 30.19 in Long Hill, New Jersey, at a negotiated cost not to exceed $1,121,111 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. The existing culvert supports single electrified tangent track on the Gladstone line between the Millington train station and the Lyons train station. We ask for your approval of item 1909-52.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti? Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Joyce.
All right, we now let Ray off the hook, and it's now Bill's turn. I would like to introduce Bill Vaquera, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, to present board item 1909-53.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of item 1909-53, approval of revolving credit agreement and issuance of grant anticipation note series 2019. New Jersey Transit, in consultation with the Office of the State Treasurer and the Office of the Attorney General, seeks board authorization to obtain a line of credit from Bank of America in the maximum principal amount of $300 million, repayable from the future receipt of federal preventative maintenance grants from the Federal Transit Administration. The line will assist New Jersey Transit in meeting its cash flow requirements for expenditures that are eligible to be reimbursed from federal grants. New Jersey Transit has the statutory authority to enter into financings based upon the future receipt of FTA grants and shall issue a grant anticipation note series 2019 to evidence and secure its repayment obligations for the revolving loans made to it by Bank of America under the agreement. Bank of America was selected through a competitive procurement process, resulting in a lower commitment fee and a lower interest rate spread. Therefore, New Jersey Transit seeks board authorization for item 19-053, revolving credit agreement and issuance of grant anticipation note series 2019. We ask for your approval of item 1909-53.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff? Motion carried.
All right, I'd now like to introduce Jeremy Colangelo O'Brien, Chief Planner, to present board item 1909-54.
Good morning. We are recommending approval of item 1909-54, Trans-Hudson Network Planning Strategy Contract Award. The Trans-Hudson Network Planning Strategy contract will include multiple study tasks focused on increasing the capacity and flexibility of the Trans-Hudson Transportation Network to provide more options for NJ Transit customers traveling between New Jersey and New York City. Authorization is requested to enter into Phase 1 of the NJ Transit contract number 19038 with AECOM of New York for professional services on the Trans-Hudson Network Planning Strategy in the amount not to exceed $656,250, which includes contingencies subject to the availability of funds. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, and New York City are expected to be key partners. Additional as-needed hours are also included to aid NJ Transit in quick and responsive coordination with other agencies looking to implement Trans-Hudson-related capital projects. Authorization of this professional services contract will provide NJ Transit with quick access to highly skilled and experienced consultant staff support. We ask for your approval of item 1909-54. Thank you.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff? Motion carried.
Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Ron Nichols, Chief of Light Rail and Contract Services, to present board item 1909-55.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-55, extension of the covenant not to compete agreement on the 300 bus route. Authorization is requested to take all actions necessary to extend the covenant not to compete agreement with Olympia Bus Trails Company, Inc., a co-chairship company of Elizabeth, New Jersey, for a 72-month period beginning October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2025, a 36-month base period and a 36-month option period for the 300 bus route between Newark Liberty International Airport and Port Authority Bus Terminal for the greater of 5.5% of gross revenue or a minimum guaranteed annual payment of $450,000. We ask your approval of item 1909-55.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'd now like to introduce Bill Vaquera again to present board item 1909-56. Bill?
Thank you. We are recommending approval of item 1909-56, New Jersey Transit Owned Real Estate Transmittal. Authorization is requested to approve the report annexed as Exhibit A and authorizes transmission of the report to the Governor, the Commissioner of Transportation, President of the Senate, Speaker of the General Assembly, the Assembly Transportation and Independent Authorities Committee, and the Senate Transportation Committee. We ask for your approval of item 1909-56.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great. I'd now like to reintroduce Eric DeLeo, Capital Programs, to present 1909-57.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-57, Capital Programs Management Professional Services Contract. Authorization is requested to enter into New Jersey Transit Contract number 20-011 with Anthony D'Amico LLC of New York for a professional services contract to support the development of a comprehensive capital program development of an asset management program to support capital development, and other services related to the administration of the capital program in an amount not to exceed $500,000 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask your approval of item 1909-57.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, roll call?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, great. I'd now like Bill Vaquera to present Board Item 1909-58.
We are recommending approval of item 1909-58, extension of health benefits consultant contract. Authorization is requested to extend New Jersey Transit contract number 14-004 with Corn Ferry, formerly the Hay Group, Inc., through June 30, 2020, to ensure continuation of expert technical advice and services at the current rates not to exceed $385,000, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-58.
I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great. Now I'd like to introduce Jeannie Kwan, Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer, to present Board Item 1909-59.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of item 1909-59, professional services contract to assist in the implementation of a comprehensive strategic, financial, and operational assessment of New Jersey Transit. Authorization is requested to enter into NJ Transit contract number 19-050 with McKinsey & Company of Newark, New Jersey, to provide consulting services to New Jersey Transit for the implementation of North Highland's comprehensive strategic, financial, and operational assessment of New Jersey Transit at a cost not to exceed $3,537,358.71 plus 5% for contingencies subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-59.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, and that's certainly an exciting item, Jeannie. And now, we've had a full agenda today. The last item is asking Bill Vaquera to present is item 1906-60. Bill?
We are recommending approval of item 1909-60, personal injury claim of Jimmy Jones. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Jimmy Jones through his attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1909-60.
Motion? A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, roll call?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Wilton?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Since there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.